In Parliament today, Deputy Prime Minister Heng said the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is expected to be more severe than SARS. The number of unemployed residents could potentially rise from around 73,000 in 2019 to above 100,000 in 2020.
There is now talk of a global lockdown generation, and fears that the youth of our time could have their skills, employability, and incomes permanently affected, even after the world recovers from the pandemic. We must work to prevent a COVID generation of workers and students in Singapore.
DPM Heng highlighted that people and jobs are at the center of Singapore's four budgets, where close to 80% of the money is dedicated to. The job support scheme will provide $23.5 billion to support 1.9 million jobs over 10 months, of which two-thirds are in small and medium enterprises.
But despite our best efforts, we cannot possibly save every job. Many sectors were already facing disruptions before COVID-19. For workers who are displaced, you have our assurance that if you make the efforts, our tripartite partners will support you to tide through this difficulty. The COVID-19 situation is a mighty storm that has damaged sails and forced ships around the world to go into harbour. While waiting for the storm to subside, we must make the best use of this downtime to build new strengths and capabilities. Let us take this rare chance to repair, upgrade our ship, and install new instruments, reorientate our mental compass, and strengthen our sailors so that when the fair wind comes, we will sail out faster and further than ever before. This is what our four budgets enable us to do. Let us make the best use of this.
Efforts are underway to allow construction activities to resume safely and quickly. Second Minister for National Development Desmond Lee said batches of workers living in dormitories are being cleared to ensure they are well and able to return to work. 60 dormitories have been cleared this week. Another 111 are due to be cleared in the coming weeks.
We will provide more regular updates to our industry, including a rolling forecast of the dormitory clearance schedule to help employers and their clients plan ahead. For workers living in the community, we have also set aside testing capacity to test construction workers regularly to ensure their health and safety and that of the wider community.
Meanwhile, Nee Soon GRC MP Louis Ng called for government-paid COVID-19 related childcare leave. This will help parents whose children need to stay home due to COVID-19 issues. Mr. Ng said it can be introduced at least till the end of Phase 2.
So this leave is critical for those who are unable to work from home. This includes parents working in essential services who perform a duty for our nation, who keep us safe. We need to make sure that they are looked after too.
Companies should also do their part to help workers. Minister of State for Manpower Zakir Hussain said employers can send their staff for subsidized training programs to take on new or redesigned job roles. The government provides up to 90% salary support and course fee subsidies for such programs.
A bill that will legally require landlords of commercial, industrial and office properties to shoulder the rental burden is also expected to be passed in Parliament today.
Well, there's so much to discuss, so let's bring in the Straits Times news editor, Zakir Hussain, to help us break it all down. Thanks for staying with us, Zakir. Back to DPM Heng's speech. Did he bring up anything new today?
I think he outlined the broad philosophy and thinking behind these four budgets. Right, we're Singapore spending close to 100 billion on these initiatives, and I think as we saw in the clip earlier, to avert a lockdown generation and the possibility that unemployment could cross 100,000. And so I think that the need to ensure that there are enough training spaces and opportunities for up to 100,000 school leavers or graduates this year, but also I think mature and middle-aged workers, so that they use this time to pick up new skills, reorientate themselves to other industries, convert to do other forms of work, so that when the economy and things pick up, they're in the best position to recover. And I think this was what DPM strongly alluded to as kind of Singapore's strategy to ride through the pandemic. There's an emerging Stronger Together task force that's been set up. And I think it's meant to look at ways and opportunities to prepare people for this future. And I think another key point that he reiterated was the value we have of past reserves. I think the government's, drawing down up to over 52 billion from past reserves. And this was only possible because of fiscal prudence and sustainable policies where, you save for the future, but at the same time, you shouldn't, leave future generations to pay off the current generation's debts. And I think in his speech, DPM did explain why, even though borrowing costs may be low, the government was not borrowing to fund the current measures.
Right, Zakir, 2 days of debate on the Fortitude Budget. What points stood out for you?
I think one key challenge was, one key point was a lot of the stories these MPs shared about, I think two things. One was the value of essential workers and essential work. When a lot of us are working from home, close to 20% of the workforce doing essential services, whether in maintenance or in cleaning and other essential services, were actually placing themselves at higher risk. And I think several MPs questioned whether there is a need for us to relook how we value these workers. Many of them are on the front line, even putting their lives at risk in this battle against COVID-19. The second point was, I think, how many things we didn't think possible have now suddenly become possible. For the longest time, hawkers were resistant to go digital, to accept cashless payments, and so on. I think when business is down and they're forced to innovate and find new ways to keep up, you see quite a lot of people adopting new methods. Same thing with telecommuting or working from home. Many employers and firms and even workers who were resistant previously to telecommuting have had to adapt and are in fact adapting very well. So much so that I think at least a couple of MPs and one MP today suggested, why not we move to a 4-day work week, right? Where the 5th day could be spent working from home or doing flexi work. And I think that's very much possible.
Let's move away from what was discussed in the last 2 days. Now, the COVID-19 Multi-Ministry Task Force has said that if the number of community cases remains low and stable, phase 2 of Singapore's reopening could start in June. So does that mean the general election could be held in July?
Possibly. I think the steps are already in place. I don't think we need to wait for an entirety of phase 2 to have an election. This will be a very different election. Don't forget that even in phase 2, some dining out will be allowed and so on, but you're not going to see coffee shops and wet markets suddenly full, and your traditional campaign rallies and all will likely not be there. But I think we're very likely looking at a July election, and I think even some of the rallying points that DPM Heng made in his speech, and I think some of the comments made by the MPs, this may well be the last parliament sitting before the election.
Wow, so that was news editor at the Straits Times, Zakir Hussain. Thank you so much. And if what you said is true, then I suppose we'll be checking in with you again very shortly.